Okay, Gaz, we're going to talk about the rigs you use, and see you've got one out there for us to see.
Yeah.
Can you just talk us through the mechanics and why you set that up and why you use it like that?
Yeah, of course, mate. I mean, fundamentally, it's quite simple, really. Yeah, but I kind of think that sort of every single little element of your rig needs to be quite carefully considered,
Sure.
and it all has to work together and kind of work as one unit, basically. Yeah. And I suppose there's a number of things about this presentation that can be tweaked to the situation in front of you. You know,
Okay.
look, although it's quite rare that I actually stray sort of too far from this, it can be tweaked in kind of small ways for different situations.
Right.
The hook bait, this is what I fished with last night. This is a balanced bottom bait, so that's got a little cork ball in there, just an 8mm cork ball, a 16mm boilie. Yeah. So that just sinks slowly. It just kind of sits on the bottom with the hook flat on the bottom, almost on top of the hook, and that just kind of takes a little bit of weight basically out of the presentation, so it kind of sort of negates the weight of the hook basically.
Right. Yeah.
So when the fish takes that in, I personally think it takes them by surprise, and it'll go back a lot further than a normal bait would, spooks them, you know, and then they hook themselves. I personally like quite a decent length hair. I guess that's
separation,
just kind of shy of an inch, really. And I just think when you're fishing for big fish, I just think you need that separation. You know, the big fish, they've got big mouths, and I just think you need to let that hook work, basically. I've got a little tiny ring on there, a little micro ring, and I just have that around kind of almost as far as it'll go before it slips around the bend. Right. Helps the hook turn. Once the fish has pricked itself, it lets that slide back along the shank, basically, in theory stopping the hook pivoting out.
Yep, sure.
A little bit of shrink tube, it's quite a standard thing these days, but it just works so well.
Yeah.
A little bit of shrink tube just helps the hook turn.
Just to flip it over.
Yeah, just to flip that hook over. I've just got a coated link on here, just with a small break, half an inch maybe.
Yep.
A couple of little bits of putty. The link itself is probably, I don't know, 7 inches long maybe.
And why 7 inches? Is that for the terrain you're fishing over now?
I changed the hook link really more in relation to the bait that I'm using. Okay, actually, if I'm using particle, I use a shorter link. If I'm fishing over boilie and a bit of a spread, you know, the fish are moving between baits, I just like to give them a bit more rope, as such, to hang themselves on.
Sure.
I just think you get better hook holds with a slightly longer link. Flexi ring swivel on there, but I actually put the ring itself onto the lead core as opposed to the swivel. Makes it safer, so it makes it easier, you know, to come off if needs be. And it also just helps it sit much better. If you do it the other way round, it just doesn't sit as well. Right. On the bottom there, I've got a ring that's just tied on with 3-pound mono. So
job done.
Pops off. You can cast 30-40 yards with it. You know, quite easy. If you need to cast further, you can just PVA it up. Just makes it really safe, and it'll pop off almost probably when the fish shakes its head, so it makes it much safer.
Especially for the situation we've got in front of us now with lots of weed.
It's really weedy. You know, you need to lose that lead, not just for the carp safety, but actually just to help you get it in as well. And then I almost always use a helicopter rig these days, and I like the fact that you can tailor it to the situation. It's quite weedy out in front, and the bottom's quite soft, so I can change the gap between those stops. You know, if I'm fishing on a really hard bottom, I might only have it just at about an inch.
Sure,
Whereas, because it's quite soft, I can bring it back up here. I could even bring it back much further. And that just lets the lead go into the bottom, but that's still going to let the hook link lie on top.
Lie over nicely.
Yep. I've got quite a short length of lead core, only probably less than 2 foot, I think. I've actually cut my length of lead core down recently. I just don't really see the need for the long ones. And then I'm using 20-pound fluorocarbon, sits really, really low in the water, and I just put a couple of blobs of putty up the line, just sits really nicely on the bottom. Almost always fish with a slack line as well these days. It just helps everything sit nicely, you know. So it's only simple, but everything's balanced, and it just works well together.
And have you got a ratio of fish landed on that rig? I know you've...
this hook, it's a size 6 wide gape hook, and set up like this, it's close to as 100%, I think, as you're ever going to get. Fishing for big fish over a little bit of a spread of bait.
Crikey, if you don't, exactly.
Which is all you can ask for.
When you're targeting those fish and getting limited takes a year,
that's
certainly a rig that I'll be looking at. Excellent.
No worries, mate.
Thanks a lot for that.